My name is Aneem Awe, and you are watching Mental Health Report Card, where each week we are going to dive into each mental health platform and we are going to have a conversation on whether it's worth it or not for clinicians. I'm a licensed mental health therapist, clinical health educator, and clinical advisor. And my mission around this is that there's a lot of mental health platforms out there. A lot of them are doing good or attempting to do good, and there are a lot of them that are exploiting the work of mental health clinicians. So each week we're going to do a deep dive and we're going to grade them from A through F. And this is going to be honest, this is going to be real, and this is going to be an opportunity for companies and clinicians to have really difficult conversations with themselves around the value that some of these mental health tech organizations are adding or taking away into the field. So this week we are coming in strong and we are taking a look at Spring Health. Spring Health is actually what motivated me to do this series. The Spring Health releases like this monthly report card for clinicians. I can't remember the term, but they basically, grade the clinicians on various areas, right? Like how, like on time are you with your sessions? How on time are you with your documentation? And so these assessments essentially help clinicians determine whether or not they qualify for a bonus from Spring Health. Now, as you can imagine, many therapists are motivated by this, but there are also some therapists that express frustration because the many issues that Spring Health within itself has. So let's get into it. So Spring Health was founded in 2016 by April Coe and her co-founder. Basically, they have backgrounds in sociology and computer science. And I think this is going to be important because often what we see in mental health tech startups or mental health tech organizations is that it lacks inviting therapists or clinicians, psychologists, people with actual experience in this work. We very often don't see them in leadership positions or positions making decision making regarding the products, regarding the tools that they're developing. So this was founded back in 2016. She's a graduate of Yale University. So obviously really smart, really brilliant, and is a well-trained computer scientist. So that is the sort of roots, if you will, of Spring Health. Now, what caught my eye with Spring Health in particular was this idea, or rather being sold on this belief that they were really solving a problem. And this is a pervasive problem that I've seen in a lot of the mental health tech. It's something that I've seen not being resolved as well. And so I thought like, hey, I spoke to this person and they told me that they provided paneling for group practices, but not just that, group practices with associate licensed clinicians. Now, if anybody is a therapist, you know that can be a little difficult to navigate. So for an EAP service, which I had to make the distinction that Spring Health is a EAP, Employee Assistance Program. So they work with organizations to support the mental health of their organizational body, their staff members, their employees. And so they determine a rate that makes sense for them. And, through that rate, somehow the therapist gets compensated, which we'll talk about a little later on. So they were advertising that they panel in, group practices, they can work with associate licenses. And that's what caught my eye. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is revolutionary. They're really solving the problem. They're really doing some cutting edge stuff because nobody else is doing this. Everybody's kind of hands off when it comes to group practices or associate licensed clinicians. So, go through the process, and I'm speaking on my own personal experience with this particular episode. And, for whatever reason, if anything comes about this, know that I'm speaking truth and I'm doing this because I'm really passionate about revolutionizing mental health and making sure that the right people have their hands in making the decisions for this space that we're in. So, went through the process with my own group practice and come to find out it never happened. Right? It's always, there's a piloting program, the program's in pilot, and, never getting much update or communication around that. And so that was a little frustrating that was what was sold to me, but not necessarily what I was, my experience was like. And so for that, I'm going to say, or rather give the grade of, I'm going to give a solid D- because, what was advertised, what was given to me or in my experience. So Spring Health, you get a D. You didn't really resolve that issue, or at least you didn't provide the services that you sold me and many other of my peers on. So next, I want to talk about compensation, because obviously that is a really big part of the work that we're doing with this series. We want to highlight compensation and whether or not it's something that is worth it or to the advantage of therapists. And so I will say this, because I did sign a contract, and I don't want to violate that contract, that you must advocate and you must negotiate for yourself. Rates will vary depending on the state that you're in, which for some is, you're going to probably say, hey, that makes sense. Well, not necessarily, right? When you're in a case where, like me, I currently reside in Georgia. However, I'm licensed to practice in Massachusetts, California, and I provide specialized therapies like EMDR, ACT therapy, DBT, and providing those sort of specialized skills. And so not necessarily being compensated for what I feel a therapist of my, experience and training should be compensated. I will say that the compensation package was a little disappointing. And I've also heard from several peers that, when they did try to seek out and renegotiate their compensation structure, that what they were met with was that they would get less referrals. Now, I can't say that it's true explicitly, but that is the experience from the peers that I spoke to regarding their experience on Spring Health. So when they reached out and said, hey, I've been on the platform for 1 year or 3 months providing this really highly specialized type of therapy, can we reevaluate the pay structure that you said that we could agree upon or renegotiate on in every 3 months? They were essentially either told flat out no, or secondly, they got to renegotiate, right? Not necessarily at the wage that they love or ideally, but they got to a rate that made sense for them. And as as retaliation, if you will, their number of referrals that they received plummeted significantly. Now, I don't know if that's the algorithm. I don't know if that's done intentionally, but again, this is based off conversations that I've had with my peers. And so for that, I'm going to give you a grade of a C+. We got work to do, right? And I recall vividly seeing that Spring Health, raised all this capital earlier in the year, and just like, well, that capital is not going to the therapists, not going to the providers, not the people on the ground doing the work. So I think that's an area of concern. But not only just that, there's another piece to this compensation conversation, particularly with Spring Health. Spring Health makes clinicians, upon onboarding into their program, they make clinicians wait 3 months to receive their first paycheck. Can you imagine working and not being paid for 3 months? And they say they don't really give much information around it. They just kind of just do what they're able to do, unfortunately. And when we're at their mercy as clinicians, we run ourselves into this risk of being mistreated in this way. So you don't get paid. I want to make sure that I reiterate that, especially for those of you who are considering and looking at different EAPs, looking at different companies that you want to potentially join with to add value to your practice. You will not get paid up until 3 months of working. Okay, so keep that in mind. The other thing is that payouts only happen once a month. It's a very convoluted system, and it really does not need to be this difficult for to have a CEO who is a computer scientist, who is a Yale grad, who probably has a lot of world-class experience. This does not need to be this difficult. And so again, for that, I'm going to give you a C. You got a lot of work to do when it comes to compensation. You got a lot of work to do when it comes to payouts. People deserve to be paid well, and people deserve to be paid on time. Next up, let's talk about referrals, right? A lot of therapists are coming on these platforms because they want to increase the number of referrals that they're getting from clients. And so for that, I'm going to say that it heavily varies. I got folks, or I have peers rather, who are in California getting tons of referrals, and I have folks who are in Florida who might be struggling to get referrals. So I think it varies. And again, I don't know if this is an algorithm issue. I don't know if this is like the number of partnerships they have with particular states and organizations. I can't really speak to that because, again, I don't work within the organization. I'm just a clinician working from the outside and giving my perspective on that. I will say, based on the conversations that I've had with my peers, that they have been able to get on, and some people have seen a huge influx when they open their availability to get clients that way, and so they kind of navigated through that. And there are some who are struggling with the number of referrals that they're getting. Again, I can't say definitely what that is about, but overall, I'm going to give them a grade of B- because I think there's always potential to do better. And so, again, when you think about why a lot of therapists are turning to these mental health tech platforms is to increase referrals and get in contact or connect with clients or a huger client base out there that might, need their skills. And so to that, I'm going to give that solid B. Look at the ethics, because ethics is very important to all of us as clinicians, because we are licensed and we must uphold and ensure that when we are operating ethically and responsibly. I will say that I believe that Spring Health is very thorough in the sense that they screen clients, right? They have a process by which I'm not privy to and I don't totally understand, and that's okay, but I think the process works. They allow the clients to take screening tools, and so you're encouraged to go over those screening tools with your clients, which I think is really amazing, and I love to help clients kind of see that as well. I will say also the onboarding process is very thoughtful and intentionally designed, which is really amazing, to ensure that people are coming in and they understand that, clients are coming in on various scales, and so as a clinician, helping you get the tools that you need within the organization to ensure that the client is going to sort of thrive, and if not thrive, then we have different plans. So I will say, ethically, I think things are really done really well from a clinical standpoint or from a clinician standpoint. So I appreciate that, and for that I will give them an A. You get an A because your process as far as it relates to ethics and funneling clients through and ensuring that clients can get through is solid, and there haven't been any major concerns or any potential legal concerns that I've seen on my part to question the ethical concerns or the ethics rather of Spring Health. So for that, I give you a solid A. All right, so overall, there are some good and bad, just like anything in life. And again, if you've watched through this point, I hope you understand that this is me trying to be as objective as possible and really help my community of clinicians see, but also those individuals who are leaders at these organizations see that, again, some of you are a really great benefit to therapists and have the potential and opportunity to kind of work side by side with therapists to help, make this product or make your products a little better. There's always room for improvement. And so overall, I'm going to give Spring Health a C-. That's my overall grade based on the conversations that we had today. And the other thing that is of concern for me as a clinician, and again, I speak to other therapists all single day, and the communication. Spring Health just added a message port within their platform, just as of 2 weeks ago. And so you could imagine that when you needed to get in contact with your client, that you would have to go back and forth with either a Spring Health rep, which could take really long to get through to them, or you would just try to email your client because there was no direct way that you can communicate with them. So things like that in 2024 is it's just okay, let's do better, and let's increase the autonomy of therapists. We shouldn't be dependent on Spring Health, advisors or the people in the customer service roles to communicate with our clients. So that was a little bit of concern. And again, the compensation piece is a huge concern, and payout. So If you are on Spring Health, if you've considered Spring Health, let me know your thoughts below. And as always, make sure you subscribe because each week we're diving into a new mental health platform and we're going to have really honest conversations. So thank you again for watching. Take care.